Hi guys, for this next video I'm going to be talking about the match between Emma Raducanu and Coco Gauff. While this match was raved about by the commentators and the fans about how great the quality was and how great the rivalry is going to be, I'm not fully convinced, and I even thought it was a rather lackluster performance from both of them. The first point that I thought was missing from the match was that both players were making a lot of errors. Balls just in the middle of the court, not under pressure, and they'd be missing the shots, giving the opponent free points. I think both of these players, that can be caused for various different reasons. I think in Coco Gauff's case, she has some major technical flaws on her ground strokes. Particularly her forehand is prone to breaking down in matches, and she doesn't hit and time it very cleanly, and you can see her start to lose accuracy as the match goes on, and she's not able to control her shots in the direction she wants them to go. So I think that's something she needs to get better to raise her level to the real top players in the rankings. And I think Emma Raducanu, actually, she's a very talented ball striker. She can hit the ball very well from the baseline, but she has especially poor shot discipline. There were many instances in the first set which she lost, where she was on a important point, a high pressure point, where she could have hurt Coco Gauff. Coco Gauff would be serving down 15-30, 30-all break point, and Coco Gauff would hit her a serve, not like a sitter serve, but a comfortable serve where she could get it back, or a ball in the middle of the court, and Emma Raducanu would just hit in the net, hit it long, hit it wide, on just a needless ball when she's just supposed to be a neutral working the point. And when you're watching a match, or if you're looking at highlights, that's something that can easily be glanced over, because it's it's just 1 point, it's not 10 shots where you get to see a whole point being constructed. It seems like it's a small point, but it's really not. Opportunities are far and few in between when it comes to tennis, especially if you're trying to play at the top of the women's game. You have to make the absolute most of every chances, and if you're, or the top pros, they won't give you any more chances like that. And if you're making errors on that, where it's balls you can control and you can force your opponent to have to hit another shot, that's extremely costly, especially in Coco Gauff's case, where she probably wasn't feeling the most comfortable in that match, feeling a lot of nerves, and Emma Raducanu would give her free errors off of points she was well into neutral in. So that's a big issue. And I think with Emma Raducanu, a lot of her, she does make shot selection errors, and just, I think, a lack of discipline to force herself onto the opponent. I think a lot of her issue as well is her court positioning. If you watch Emma Raducanu play, you can tell that she takes the ball very early and she stands really close to the baseline. When she's playing well and when she's having good matches, this is extremely effective, and she can hurt even the best tennis players with her powerful ball striking, fast foot speed, and ability to take the ball early and take time away from the opponent. It's extremely effective when she's playing well. However, when she's not playing well, it does not work in her favor. She starts to make errors a little bit more, because it's tougher to time a ball when you're right next to it versus when you're standing an extra 1 or 2 steps back and you have more time to take a full swing at it. But where it really costs her is that when she's not assessing the situation correctly. If you are in a neutral or a defensive position, you have to give yourself space from behind the baseline, especially in your defense. And if you're in defense, you have to back up a little bit behind the baseline to give yourself time to move, time to react, time to chase down balls. There were many instances during the match where Coco Gauff would have a sitting forehand right in the middle of the court, and yes, she'd hit a winner and that would look like a great shot, but on the other hand, you have Emma Raducanu standing 2 feet behind the baseline, so of course it's going to be a winner. It's not very hard to hit the ball by someone if they're close to the baseline. If Emma Raducanu can recognize that, Coco Gauff has a ball she can attack here, I need to take about move about 2 or 3 feet back in order to absorb the ball, counterpunch a little bit to get the balls back in play, try to neutralize the rally, it's a totally different point. But if you're locked into that offensive position to take the ball early, and your opponent's just teeing up on shots, you're not going to be able to chase anything down, and you're not going to be able to prolong rallies, and you're going to make it easier for your opponent to finish points against you. So that's something she just needs to address in her game. She's had a lot of coaching changes, but as good as her offense is, as good as her footwork is, there's no player that's so good that they have to avoid defense. Swiatek will play defense, Jabor will play defense, Pegula will play defense on the men's game. Nadal and Djokovic are extremely willing to defend. It's just something you have to respect. As good as your offense is, it's not going to work every time. And even on serve, there were many instances. Well, it's a well-known fact that Coco Gauff has a very good serve, probably one of the best serves on the women's tour. Excuse me. And on many big points, Emma Raducanu, she has a very good return to serve, but she's standing so close to the service box that she's actually making it way more difficult on herself to return that serve. So, for instance, maybe she'd be standing at the baseline and she's having to play a backhand or a forehand right at her shoulder height on a second serve just to get the ball back into play. If you somehow make contact with that ball, I'm sure it's going to be a great shot and Coco Gauff's not going to have much time to react, but it's way too risky and it's way too damaging on your own part than it is to take an extra 1 or 2 steps back so you can get the ball to comfortable height and you can still take a rip at the ball and look for short ones. But when you're playing a good server, you need to give yourself the space and you need to prioritize getting the ball in play, absorbing a good serve before you can work on transitioning into offense. That applies to the first serve too. Coco Gauff has a very good first serve, and if you're standing really close to the baseline, it's going to be very hard to return the balls out wide and down the tee. Sometimes it feels like if you take the ball, if you stand closer to the service box, you're going to be able to cut out the angles, but that's not really the case. You are going to have more time to chase down the balls if you're standing a little bit further away and giving yourself more time to chase down the ball. Nadal, Medvedev, even Dominic Thiem, they all stand very far back behind the baseline, and it's very difficult to ace them. They are all fast players, but a lot of it is to do with the fact that they're receding ground, giving the ball time to slow down, and giving them more time to react to the serve and chase it down to its spot. But with that being said, let's get to the good part of the match, the tiebreaker. That was the highest quality portion of the match. And I think during the match, both players were willing to attack, trying to transition to offense. But at that moment, Coco Gauff went lockdown. She said, I am going to get everything back, and I am not going to miss a ball no matter what. And she did very well in the tiebreaker. I think she won 7-2 or 7-3. I'm not 100% on which one it was. But she played, she did some of her best movement throughout the entire match, chasing balls literally from one end of the sideline to the other end of the sideline, and forcing Raducanu to come up with shots she was not able to. But in Raducanu's case, she was already in good position. She had the ability to dictate play because Coco Gauff was taking a defensive stance during the points. But what would happen is that Raducanu would get the ball to attack, and a ball that would normally be a winner, but because Coco Gauff's a good athlete, she's able to chase it down, return it back into play. You could tell that Emma Raducanu, with each shot, she was getting riskier, fewer and fewer margins, and she was getting closer and closer to the line. After a few points, when she was totally in control and Coco Gauff chased down every ball, she just totally lost her head for a little bit. It didn't even look like she was aiming for the court. She was just swinging away at the ball and hoping by some miraculous chance she'd hit a winner without having any sort of good court positioning on the court. And that's a common mistake. Like, you'll see it at all levels, NTRP, high school, college. A player hits some good shots, the opponent gets them back, they get frustrated and confused, and they feel like they need to do way more, like hit an even better shot to try to earn the point to get a winner. But you can't do that at the expense of missing your own shots. If you're already in control of the point and you're already on offense, just stay in that comfortably offensive space. You don't need to jeopardize your own chances of losing the point by making your shots riskier and riskier. Just keep your opponent under pressure. Keep your opponent in the bad position. You already have good position on the court. If Raducanu just continued to hit good shots rather than trying to hit a great shot, Coco Gauff would eventually have worn down or have mistimed the ball. That wasn't an impossible thing. She has to have the patience and the resiliency to know that if I keep hitting good shots and I keep forcing Coco Gauff to hit tougher and tougher shots, that she's eventually going to make an error. And then if Coco Gauff does get a ball to attack on, now she's going to feel like she has to go for something massive because this is the one chance she's had to be offensive in the point. So Raducanu, like, you have a good offensive game. You're good at applying a pressure onto your opponents, but just keep it there. Don't try to make your game more and more error prone by trying to apply more and more offense. Just let the offense do its work, let the opponent suffer from their defensive position, and that's as far as you need to go to win the majority of points. So credit to Coco Gauff. I think she has a better understanding tactically of her game. There's really a lot of things she does well. First, she's a great athlete. She's a great competitor. And you can tell that each point she plays is constructed with a purpose. She has a plan for each point she plays. That starts with a great serve. She's a very solid returner, and you can tell she's very competitive. It's pretty rare when she's in a pressure moment in a game, she makes a bad play or has a mental lapse. She's very competitive and very locked in on those points, and that's really important to see, especially as a young player where sometimes they're not very mentally developed, but she's really mature for an 18-year-old. But there are like the flaws in her game where her baseline game can break down. I think she has a really poor record against Halep, and that's because Halep can make a ton of balls. Halep hits the ball extremely clean from the baseline and moves very well. Raducanu, when she's forced to go for shots and routinely has to hit small targets with her ground strokes to win points, she struggles with her accuracy, and especially her forehand can tend to break down, as I've said before. Coco Gauff, I'm sure she's going to be very happy with the victory. In my opinion, I don't think it was an amazing match from her on her side. Like, it's great to beat a young rival, but at the same time, Emma Raducanu is 77 in the world. Yes, she won the U.S. Open 1.5 years ago, but just in how she's played in the past calendar year, she has fully deserved the 77 in the world spot. That's like the level she's been playing. We'll see if this is a tournament where Emma Raducanu ups her level of game and makes a break higher into the rankings and starts really contending for another Grand Slam. But if she keeps making the same mistakes, I don't see that really happening. On Coco Gauff's hand, it's good that you got the win, but at the same time, I think she could have played better. And to really be a threat to win this tournament, I think those are some flaws she has to get rid of. She needs to take the errors out of her game. She needs to move her feet a little bit better. I think Coco Gauff, she's really good when she has to chase balls down far away from her, as we saw in the tiebreak. But just like the little short adjustment steps from the middle of the court to get yourself in good position to time the ball cleanly rather than early or late like she often does. Her little adjustment steps need to get better, and she needs to be more comfortable in rallies and feeling like her shots are going to hold up. They're not going to break down as the match goes on. That's going to be really important for her to beat the other top female players. So thank you for watching my video. Those were my thoughts on the match. If you agree, disagree, comment something below. If Coco Gauff goes on to have an amazing tournament, that's on me. We'll see where Emma Raducanu goes from here, but thanks for watching my video.